Your reality is a mirror of your inner state. This is not a poetic metaphor. This is a metaphysical law. The outer world, in all its appearances, is the exact reflection of what you habitually accept as true in consciousness. You do not experience life as it is. You experience life as you are. The conditions, events, and relationships that surround you are molded by the assumptions you carry quietly in your mind. Most live unaware of this principle, believing they are victims of chance, circumstance, or the will of others. But the moment you realize the world is not acting independently of your consciousness, everything begins to shift. If your dominant belief is that life is hard, filled with struggle, or that success comes only to the lucky or well-connected, then that belief becomes the blueprint through which your reality is constructed. You will unconsciously interpret and attract experiences that confirm it. If you believe people cannot be trusted, you will find yourself surrounded by betrayal or guardedness. If you believe money is scarce, your world will echo back scarcity, no matter how hard you work or how many opportunities you chase. But the reverse is just as true. When you shift your inner state, your assumptions, your feelings, your beliefs, you automatically begin to transform your outer experience. This is not positive thinking. This is law. The inner determines the outer always. You are never dealing with effects, only with causes that you have set in motion within your own mind. When you truly grasp this, you stop trying to manipulate people or struggle against circumstances. You recognize that your only true work is to monitor and master your internal state. Are you living in anxiety or peace, doubt or confidence? Are you rehearsing past disappointments or imagining new outcomes? The secret is not to wait for life to show you better things so you can feel better. The secret is to thus feel better now, and by doing so, summon a better life. If you wish to change your reality, do not start with action, start with awareness. Sit quietly and examine what you believe about yourself and the world. Do you believe you are worthy of love, of success, of health? Whatever you believe, you will live. Life faithfully reflects what you hold in consciousness. The mirror cannot lie. And yet people will say, but I didn't choose to be poor, or I didn't want this illness, or I never asked for heartbreak. And it is true. They did not consciously desire those outcomes. But remember, you manifest not what you want, but what you assume. The most powerful beliefs are often hidden, rooted in unconscious self-concepts formed in childhood, culture, or repeated emotional states. When you bring these into awareness and challenge them, you reclaim your power. This is why it is said that your world is yourself pushed out. Every interaction, every success or failure, every condition you call real, is the outpicturing of your internal world. If you change nothing within, nothing will change without. But if you rise into a new assumption, one of peace, love, abundance, and success, and persist in that state, you will find the world reshaping itself around you. It does not matter if circumstances seem slow to change. The mirror may take time to reflect the new image, but it must reflect it eventually. Persist in the new state. Return to it daily. Live from it, think from it, feel from it. The outer world will catch up. It has no choice. So you must ask yourself, not what do I want to experience, but what do I as habitually believe to be true? Because that belief, not your desires, is what constructs your life. If you do not like what you see in the mirror, do not smash the glass. Change the face you are showing to it. Change your assumptions, and your world must change with them. Imagination is the only creative power. Everything that you see in the world, every building, every invention, every work of art, every social movement, began first as a thought. Before anything became visible or tangible, it existed in someone's imagination. What most do not realize, however, is that this same creative power resides in every individual. It is not exclusive to the so-called talented or lucky. It is not reserved for artists, visionaries, or entrepreneurs alone. It belongs to you. Your imagination is your workshop, your laboratory, your spiritual womb. It is where the unseen becomes seen, where the invisible is shaped into form. Most people use their imagination passively, often destructively. They worry, they fear, they rehearse worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. This too is imagination misused. When you constantly dwell on what you don't want, you are still using your creative power, but against yourself. Imagination doesn't discriminate between good or bad, wanted or unwanted. It simply produces according to what is impressed upon it with emotion and belief. Therefore, to imagine is to create, whether consciously or unconsciously. The power lies in becoming a conscious user of imagination. You are not meant to drift through life reacting to what has already been created. You are meant to direct the course of your life by envisioning it first in your mind, and then stepping into it as if it were already true. When you imagine the life you desire with clarity and feeling, when you picture it in your mind and accept it emotionally, you are planting a seed in the infinite field of consciousness. That seed, if not uprooted by doubt, will grow. It must. This is law. You must come to understand that imagination is not fantasy. It is not childish daydreaming or wishful thinking. It is causative. It is the mechanism by which reality is shaped. What you consistently imagine and feel to be true will harden into fact. So when you imagine yourself as wealthy, healthy, loved, or successful, and you do so not as a wish, but as a state you are already occupying, you are activating the creative process. You are no longer hoping for change. You are assuming it. And that assumption will find its expression in your world. It is important to use imagination from the end, not the means. You are not to imagine how something will happen. That is not your concern. The how belongs to a deeper intelligence. Your role is to imagine the end fulfilled, to see yourself already in possession of your desire, to feel it with all the senses, and to rest in the certainty that it is done. Do this consistently and you will find doors opening, people appearing, circumstances aligning in ways that seem miraculous. But they are not miracles. They are the natural outworking of the creative power within you. Most people think they must work harder, struggle longer, or manipulate external conditions to achieve their goals. But all outer effort without inner alignment is futile. Right action flows naturally from a rightly imagined state. When your inner vision is clear and your emotional acceptance is firm, you will be moved to act in ways that support the vision. The outer world will bend, not through force, but through the silent influence of the image held in mind. This is why imagination must be honored, cultivated, and guarded. What you consistently imagine, you become. The mind is the womb of your future. Guard it. Do not allow fear, doubt, or past failures to shape your vision. Replace them with images of success, joy, abundance, and peace. Practice entering the scene of your fulfilled desire every day. Feel it, hear it, see it. Let it become more real to you than your current circumstances. Everything that ever will be already exists in potential. It waits for you to bring it into form by the act of conscious imagining. You are not here to adapt to a limited world. You are here to create a new one from within. And the tool of that creation is always, and only, your imagination. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This simple phrase contains the entire secret of manifestation. It means that to bring a desire into reality, you must mentally and emotionally inhabit the state of already having it. You do not wait for the desire to manifest in the external world to feel the joy, peace, or satisfaction associated with it. You feel it now. You live from that state now. Because it is the state that creates the experience, not the other way around. Most people live in a constant cycle of wanting and waiting. They say, I'll feel happy when I get the job. Or, I'll feel loved when I'm in a relationship. Or, I'll feel abundant when I have more money. But this approach reverses the creative order. The truth is that your feelings, when assumed and sustained, generate the conditions that reflect them. If you wait for evidence to feel differently, you'll remain stuck. But if you assume the inner feeling of already being where you want to be, reality begins to shift. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled means more than positive thinking. It requires emotional conviction. You must feel, with all the senses of inner awareness, that what you desire is already so. See it, hear it, touch it in your imagination. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the confidence that would naturally arise if your desire were now a fact. Dwell in that state, not as a visitor but as a resident. That emotional state becomes your new dwelling place, and your outer life will inevitably begin to mirror it. This assumption must be genuine. It cannot be forced or robotic. The key is to make it natural. Think of how effortlessly you assume your current identity. You don't wake up each day trying to believe you are who you are. You simply know it. This is the kind of inner certainty you must cultivate about your desired state. The more real it feels to you internally, the faster it will crystallize externally. Doubt is the great interrupter. When you shift back and forth between faith and fear, your emotional state sends mixed signals. The subconscious mind, which shapes experience, responds to conviction, not contradiction. This is why persistence is necessary. You may not see immediate results, but you must not abandon the assumption. The feeling must be carried like a quiet inner flame, steady and unwavering. It is not intensity that matters most, but consistency. Create mental scenes that imply your desire is already fulfilled. These scenes should feel vivid and alive. Imagine shaking the hand of a friend congratulating you. Imagine walking into your new home, feeling the texture of the walls, smelling the air. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing the balance you once dreamed of. Whatever the desire, construct a short mental scene that implies its completion, and enter into it repeatedly until it feels like a memory rather than a hope. This is not about pretending or faking. It's about aligning your inner world with the reality you want to experience. When you live from the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you activate the creative law of consciousness. The world must then rearrange itself to reflect the new state you have claimed as your own. You do not need to know how it will happen. The path will be revealed as you persist in the state. Unexpected connections, ideas, and opportunities will emerge. But these are not the cause. They are the result of the assumption you have made. Your task is to sustain the inner feeling, even when the outer world appears unchanged. Eventually, the feeling will become so dominant that you forget you once desired it. It will simply feel normal. That is the moment of creation, when the desire no longer feels distant or separate, but familiar and present. Manifestation is near. The outer world, being a mirror, must then reflect what you have already accepted as true within. You are not hoping for a better life. You are assuming it. You are embodying it. You are living from the end. And because you dare to feel now what others wait to feel later, you bring the future into the present. This is how you win. This is how you create. This is how you become. Consciousness is the only reality. This is a profound truth that, once understood, shifts your entire experience of life. It means that everything you see, everything you touch, everything you experience in the outer world is a reflection, a projection, of your inner state of consciousness. The world is not separate from you. It is not something happening outside of your awareness. It is something shaped, colored, and animated by your consciousness. In other words, what you believe, feel, and accept as true within yourself is what you encounter in your external reality. This realization removes the illusion of separation between the self and the world. You come to understand that there is no outside authority dictating your experience. You are not the effect of a random or chaotic world. You are the cause, and the cause resides in consciousness. Your beliefs, assumptions, fears, expectations, and mental images create a vibrational blueprint that your world faithfully mirrors. People often search for answers outside themselves. They look to circumstances, other people, luck, or fate to determine what they can have or become. But all of these are shadows, effects of the state of consciousness they are occupying. Change the state, and the shadows change. Stay in the same state, and the patterns repeat endlessly, regardless of how much external effort is applied. To know that consciousness is the only reality is to take full responsibility for your life, not blame responsibility. It means you are willing to examine your inner dialogue, your habitual thoughts, your emotional reactions, and recognize them as the seeds of your experiences. If you find chaos, lack, or limitation in the outer world, you don't fight with the effects. You turn inward and ask, what am I assuming? What am I accepting as true? It also means that nothing can change in your life until you change your state of consciousness. No matter how much you wish, complain, or strive, if you continue to dwell in the same inner state, your world must remain the same. But the moment you shift inwardly, your reality begins to rearrange. This is not a theory, it is a law, and it works with mathematical certainty. This is why inner work is more powerful than outer action. Outer action without inner alignment is like planting seeds on barren ground. But when you align your consciousness with the state you wish to express, whether it be abundance, love, health, or success, Action becomes effortless and inspired. Life begins to flow rather than fight. Opportunities seem to appear at the right time. People and events begin to cooperate with the inner change you've made. It is not about forcing or manipulating the outer world. That would be trying to change the reflection in a mirror without changing your expression. Instead, you go to the root, your consciousness, and you revise it. You claim a new identity. You see yourself differently. You feel differently. And as you persist in this new state, the world conforms to it. This understanding liberates you. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer beg the world to give you what you think it owes you. You give it to yourself first in consciousness and allow the world to catch up. You stop chasing and you start becoming. Because once something is true within, it must become true without. You are not a powerless observer of your life. You are the awareness that is shaping it at every moment. Your reactions, your assumptions, your beliefs, they are not just mental habits, they are creative acts. Consciousness is the potter and the world is the clay. Mold the inner, and the outer cannot resist the shape you give it. To truly live by this truth is to live deliberately. You stop reacting and start choosing. You choose your state. You choose your identity. You choose your experience by what you claim in consciousness. And when you do this with consistency and conviction, reality bends to your will, not because of force, but because of law. The law that consciousness is the only reality. Persistence in assumption changes circumstances. This is one of the most misunderstood yet vital principles in the creative process. It means that once you have assumed the state of your wish fulfilled, once you have mentally and emotionally accepted your desire as already true, you must hold that assumption steadily, even in the face of contradictory evidence. The transformation of circumstances is not always immediate. There is often a time delay between the assumption and its external manifestation, and it is during this interval that most people falter. But it is precisely this period that tests and ultimately proves your creative power. When you assume a new state, whether it is health, abundance, love, or success, you are planting a new seed in the soil of consciousness. Just as with any seed planted in physical soil, there is a gestation period. You would not dig up a seed every day to check if it's growing. You would water it, nurture it, and trust that it is taking root. In the same way, your assumption must be nurtured with feeling and sustained through repetition, despite appearances. The world may continue to reflect old assumptions for a time, but if you remain faithful to your new inner state, the outer must eventually conform. Persistence does not mean effort or struggle. It means continuity in belief. It is the silent, unwavering conviction that what you have accepted in consciousness is already yours. You are not working to make it happen. You are sustaining the inner experience of it already being so. This is where many lose faith. They look for signs too soon. They get discouraged by what appears to be no change, and they fall back into old states of doubt, worry, or impatience. When this happens, they interrupt the creative process and reinforce the very conditions they seek to escape. Circumstances are not static. They are always shifting in response to your state of consciousness. But the shift is subtle at first, like the tide turning at sea. You may not notice it right away, but if you persist in your assumption, the momentum builds. Eventually, the change becomes visible, unmistakable, and irreversible. This is why the most powerful tool you have is not force, but inner persistence. The ability to remain loyal to your vision, even when the senses scream otherwise. Think of your assumption like a radio frequency. When you tune into a specific station, you receive whatever is being broadcast at that frequency. If you want to hear a different song, you don't fight the current station. You change the dial. And if the signal isn't clear, you don't abandon the process. You stay tuned until the frequency sharpens. In the same way, your assumption is a signal, a frequency that must be held long enough to draw into your experience the corresponding reality. This persistence also builds identity. When you consistently assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, it becomes less like pretending and more like remembering who you truly are. The new state becomes your natural home, and you begin to embody it without effort. You're no longer trying to become successful. You're being success. You're not striving for love. You're living from love. This identity shift is the foundation of all true and lasting transformation. Persistence requires discipline of mind. It means catching yourself when you begin to fall back into old stories and gently bringing your focus back to the desired state. It means replacing doubt with confidence, fear with faith, and impatience with peace. This is not denial of reality. It is a deeper acknowledgement of the truth that reality is first formed within. When you persist in your assumption, you align with the deeper rhythm of creation. You become a deliberate participant in shaping your world. There is no power outside of you determining whether your dream will come true. It is your inner conviction, sustained through time, that makes it inevitable. The truth is simple: what you assume with feeling, and persist in assuming, must be made real in your experience. The world is plastic to your beliefs. Mold it gently, persistently, and faithfully, and it will become what you have imagined it to be. The world is yourself pushed out. This means that everything you encounter in life, the people you meet, the situations you experience, the conditions that surround you, is a reflection of your inner state. Nothing is random. Nothing happens to you from the outside in. It all begins within, shaped and molded by your beliefs, assumptions, self-concepts, and emotions. The world, in its intricate and ever-changing forms, is merely echoing what you consistently hold to be true in the depths of your consciousness. This truth can be confronting, especially when you are faced with difficult or painful circumstances. It may be easier to believe that others are responsible for your unhappiness, that systems, luck, or fate determine your outcomes. But when you realize that the outer world only reflects what you accept and project inwardly, you reclaim the power to transform it. You are not a victim of life. You are its author. Every person who appears in your life plays a role that reflects something within you. If you believe people are untrustworthy, you will find betrayal and disappointment. If you believe others are kind and helpful, that is what you will meet. These are not judgments of others, but revelations of yourself. People respond to the vibration you emit. They reflect your self-image back to you. The relationships you attract mirror your inner dialogue, what you truly believe you deserve and expect from others. This concept also applies to success, money, health, and opportunity. If you believe the world is abundant and open, you will find doors where others see walls. If you believe life is difficult and unforgiving, it will appear that way to you. The circumstances are not fixed, they are fluid expressions of your inner pattern. When you change the pattern, the world must follow. To work with this law, begin by observing your life with curiosity, not judgment. What themes repeat? What types of people do you continually attract? What challenges recur, no matter how much effort you apply externally? These are clues pointing back to persistent inner assumptions. The goal is not to blame yourself, but to become aware. Once you are aware, you can consciously choose to revise what you believe and therefore change what you experience. If you want others to treat you with respect, assume that you are already worthy of respect. Feel it, live from it. If you want financial freedom, assume that you are already a person who moves through the world with ease, trust, and abundance. Don't wait for the world to validate your new belief. Embody it now, and the world will eventually mirror it back to you. This is the essence of self-concept work. Your concept of self is the seed from which all experience grows. A person who believes they are lucky sees the world differently than someone who believes they are cursed. And because perception shapes behavior and reaction, they generate entirely different realities, even if they live in the same environment. Your self-concept writes the script that others unknowingly act out. When you realize the world is yourself pushed out, you stop trying to change others. You stop struggling to rearrange external pieces. Instead, you go within. You revise the image you hold of yourself. You upgrade your internal assumptions. You become what you seek. And as you do, the world shifts effortlessly and sometimes even dramatically to reflect the change. This principle also demands responsibility. No one else can do this work for you. You cannot depend on someone else to fix your life, because the true fix lies in your own mind. The power that shapes your experience is within you, not in someone else's hands. That might feel like a burden at first, but in truth, it is your greatest liberation. You have the power to change your life by changing your inner world. When you live from the understanding that the world is yourself pushed out, you begin to take control of your destiny in the most powerful way. You don't react, you create. You don't beg, you assume. And through the silent and consistent application of this truth, you become the master of your reality.